Hello, welcome to Krafting Kitty. My name is Erin and I am here to do a tutorial on a basic handled tote bag. So what I like to do, we'll start materials first. I like to use a canvas for the exterior. So this is a canvas, a quilting cotton for the interior. You can use quilting cotton for both. It's not quite as durable. It's going to be as durable as the cotton you use, obviously. So there's different qualities of cotton. You'll get different qualities of bags. This is a remnant. I used it for one of my very first projects I did sewing. So this has been around for a long time. A duvet that I made for our bed to cover an old blanket we had. So the exterior I know came from Joann's. I got all of my kind of canvas at Joann's. Just some fun fabric. Kind of looks like lollipops. I thought it was cute. So you'll need your two fabrics. I have made them double canvas. They are quite durable. I find it gets very thick for the sewing machine because you're going to be sewing straps in. And at that point, you're going to have, at one point, when you sew over the straps, you're going to have 6 layers of fabric. And my sewing machine does not enjoy that. But the canvas and cotton works very well. You're going to need a pair of scissors of some sort. Recommended but not required is a pair of pinking shears. So pinking shears, you can see, are like, what is that, serrated? Anyway, they've got these little V's on it. When you clip it, it creates a zigzag pattern on your fabric that helps the fabric to stop from fraying once it's sewn. You probably shouldn't have an issue with this fraying because it's going to be a lined tote, so you're not going to have those edges exposed, but that's just an extra nicety if you have it. But you can certainly just trim the corners with a normal scissors and you will be just fine. And the other thing you are going to want is some pins or some, sorry, reaching across my thing, some of these like wonder clip thingies. These come in different sizes. They are very nice for sewing things and whatnot, so you don't have to use the pins. So these are the Jumbo Wonder Clips. I got the 24 pack. They, of course, come in various sizes for your needs. I am not going to use the Jumbo Clips myself. I'm going to use my pins. Okay, so I need to go do some ironing, get this flat, and I will come back and show you the first cutting step. Okay, I am back. I have ironed, and I also realized I forgot in the beginning to tell you, you're going to need a measuring tool of some sort. I have my 6x24 quilting measurer. I guess it's a ruler, not a measurer. Or, I mean, technically my quilting mat, my cutting mat has a ruler on it as well. But if you use whatever measurement tool you need, you do you. They all work. So what we're gonna need is 2 14x14 squares from your lining fabric and 2 14x14 squares from your outer fabric. This fabric isn't really directional, so it doesn't matter much how I cut it. The outer fabric I have is directional, so that one I am going to have to pay attention to how I position the fabric. But basically, we're just going to need I don't have the square on my mat, that's going to annoy me. So however you best like cutting your fabric, please go to town and cut your fabric. And actually, I think I will just use my measurement here. So I need square this up a bit. Let's see, sure. Oh, pretty nice. I mean, you lose a little with seam allowance, so it's not, we're not doing rocket science here. We're making a tote bag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, we want to be up to my 9-inch mark there. So basically, I'm going to cut this 14 inches tall, and then I'm going to deal with trimming the little excess I have from the edge to make myself a 14-inch square. And then I'm going to move on and do my next cut. So I got 14 there. Let's see, I got 20. Got to go to the 6-inch mark there. So I'm going to run the ruler into my own body. So what I do like is kind of using both these tools, because you can use the ruler marks on your cutting mat to make sure you've got everything lined up and square. And that's nice. Let's just double check. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There we go. Okay. Measure twice, cut once. You know, I messed that up on a prior tutorial. So, slip that. Oh, that selvage will be in the seam allowance anyway. Okay. Nope. The kidzos are acting like roosters downstairs. If you hear cock-a-doodle-doos, those are the kiddos being kidzos. So 5, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14. We want to go to the 19 mark here, and we want to run it up 14 inches. Unlock it. There. Now we want to go here. No, come on. Sure we're all lined up. Good to go. Good to go. One more cut. Done with the first fabric. Okay, what you didn't hear, or I think I said it, but it was off camera. I said something about, oh, the selvage doesn't matter. It's going to be in seam allowance anyway. So when you're looking at fabric that comes off the bolt, there are these 2 areas on the edge, and that's called the selvage. It's basically just the edge of the fabric. It'll be a little easier if I bring out the canvas and show you. So on the canvas, on this edge, the selvage is all frayed, and if you look closely, it's woven just a little bit differently than the rest of the fabric. Where you can really tell is the other edge of the selvage. So this is real basic. If you're an experienced sewer, this doesn't matter. So what the selvage will tell you is it's basically the ball band of the fabric. It tells you the name of the pattern, the company, designer. This one is a directional fabric, so it's showing you which way is up, telling you it's 100% cotton, and giving you cleaning directions. Here we go. Dry cleaning recommended. And then sometimes there are things like this. And this is actually helpful if you're looking to coordinate or match fabrics, because these are little samples of the colors in the fabric. So see, that 3 is right there. The 4 is the kind of teal there. The 1 is the dark brown. The 2 is kind of the medium brown in the background. 7 is the yellow. 5 is, you get the gist. But then, it's right there, and you just know at a glance what colors you're working with. Now in this one, the selvage is much is a little bigger. It's about a 1/2 inch. Yeah. So a 1/2 inch is my seam allowance on this project. So for this one, you could technically get away with what I did on the last one. But for this one, I would not include that entire selvage and be assured in myself that it was somehow taken care of in the selvage and wouldn't show at all. It would make me a little twitchy, so I won't do that. But what I am going to do is not have this bunched up there because that's going to annoy me. We're going to just work with the top here. So what I am going to do here is trim this edge of the fabric because it does have the squiggles, the frayed edge there, and I just don't like it, so it will annoy me to look at it. So we're just gonna trim that off to give us a nice clean edge there. So now we've done that. I'll bring this around here. Okay, got one 14 by 14 square here. Rid of all of that. Put you there. And then we're going to want to do that again. Okay, so I've got 2 front pieces, and since they're lollipops, we need to make sure all the lollipops are pointing the same direction, and they are. Here's my lining fabric. It's not going to matter at all which way these are pointing because it's just kind of non-directional, kind of viney, stylized vines. Okay, so I just like to get all my cutting out of the way at the beginning. This is where you get to make a choice. We need to make the straps. For the straps, you can use either the canvas, basically you can use either fabric. I don't necessarily recommend somehow combining the fabric or whatever. I think that's just a bit too much work than what I would care to do on this project. But what you're going to need are 2 pieces of fabric that measure 4 by 22 inches. So I don't think I've got 22 inches. Oh, wait, do I? What? Oh, score. Okay. So I actually I can go this way with my fabric. I cut from here for the fronts, And what I have left here is 22 inches. So let me get back out the handy quilt ruler. So this is where this ruler really shines. So what we're gonna do is just, so you got 22 inches there. I am going to get that all nicely lined up. Get that all nicely lined up. Get rid of the squiggles. 4. Curse you, hand. 22 by 4. And land that. Okay, so I've got like maybe 1/8 of an inch overage on that end. It's a strap. I'm not gonna sweat that too terribly much. If I guess here I'll do it correctly since it's right here and it's easy to do. There you go. I mean, that's how you fix it. But again, had you looked at that and said, I don't need to worry about that in my life, I would not have blamed you one bit. Okay, so we have all of our pieces cut. Your strap pieces will be 4 by 22 inches, 2 of them, and the front and back 2 14 by 14 panels. And now I am going to get my sewing machine back out and we'll start the next step. Okay, so I am back. I've got my sewing machine in position and we're going to start with our outer fabric. So because we're using directional fabric, we need to be very intentional about how we line these things up. Basically, we want to take our exterior fabric and line it up right sides together. Sorry, I've changed the angle of my camera to get the sewing machine in view, but now I have to figure out how to show you the fabric. Okay, so we're basically putting it right sides together and we're gonna pin it. And our plan is to sew along these 3 edges and leave the top open because it's a tote bag. We need an open side. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pinning. And so it's up to you, experienced sewers, sewists, whatever you want to call yourself. Oh no, pin down, pin down. I have saved it. We're all good. Okay. For something like this, maybe experienced sewists would not bother pinning. You're just doing some straight edges here. It does help to make sure your sewing machine doesn't like pull your fabric off each other and just tilt it a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin her together. And of course, this is where those wonder pins are nice, or wonder clips are nice, because with a wonder clip, you can't stab yourself. But if you're careful with a straight pin like this, you will not stab yourself either. So take heed of what you're doing and pay attention, and we'll all come out with minimal bandage as needed. Perfect. So I've got myself pinned here, and now we're going to move to the sewing machine. And like I said before, we're going to want a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to slip that in there, and I've got the measurement guides to tell me kind of on my sewing machine where my 1/2 inch mark is. And at this point, you're going to hear sound cutting in and out because I'm not sure you want to hear the rattle of my sewing machine through your speakers. But I always like to grab and secure the thread coming out of my machine. Otherwise it can get sucked back in and causes a mess. And you're also going to want to be extra safe, you sew a couple stitches, use the reverse on your sewing machine, back it up, and then sew it again. It just reinforces that. In a tote bag like this, I might not say it, but we are going to fold over the edges, and it just adds a little extra oomph to that beginning of the seam. So I would advise doing that for this project. Okay, and we begin. Okay, so we have our three sides sewn here. We've left the top open. Now what you're going to want to do here is clip your corners. So basically, oh, I should have used a darker thread here. Where your stitches cross there, where your seams cross, take your scissors. I'm going to use my pinking shears. You can use normal scissors too. And you just, oh, those are kind of big for you to see, but you can't see the seam lines anyway. Just clip your corner. You think, oh no, don't do it. But you may have seen when I was recording that I didn't reverse or anything. I didn't reverse or anything down at these edges because I knew I was going to be clipping my corners and that would be removed anyway. So there's really no point. Now at this point, this is where, if you're going to use your pinking shears, you would, you basically just trim the selvage, or not the selvage, your seam allowance with your pinking shears here. And I just like to do roughly halfway. So what this does is it is that anti-fraying, and it also reduces the bulk in your seams for when you flip the bag inside out, since it is a lined tote we're making. So there we go. I'm going to just do that down all three sides, and you'll see it makes this lovely zigzaggy pattern, but holding it like that is a little unwieldy. Clear away your debris. Okie dokie, and here we are. We have our exterior. Hooray! And what we need to do next is take this uncut open edge, and we want to fold it down 1/2 inch like this and press it. So you're going to want to measure your 1/2 inch. So I've got another nice quilting ruler. Basically what I do, this actually has a little area for seam allowance on it. These are really nice Omni Grid rulers. Highly recommended them if you're doing quilting and whatnot. And just I'm going to do that, take it off, and then so I'm going to pin it, and I'm pinning it because I'm going to iron it. And at first you're going to have to measure it every little bit because the fabric isn't going to want to fold nicely for you. But by the time you get about halfway done here, you'll find it goes much easier and you don't have to keep remeasuring. So basically you do that and then press the top so that stays nicely. So you've got your interior fabric. What you're going to want to do with your interior fabric is also pin them right sides together. So right side of the fabric is the printed pretty area, wrong side is the non-printed area. And so you're going to pin the three sides and sew them just like you did for this one. Basically, we are repeating the same steps we just did for the exterior for the interior. Okay, and then once again on this piece, we're going to trim the corners and the seam allowances. And then once we're done with our trimming and all that good stuff, we are going to fold down. We're going to fold down this edge the 1/2 inch as well. And so I'm going to fold this down, pin it. I am going to iron, and I will be back to show you the next steps. Hello, and we are back, and we have nicely pressed exterior or top areas here. Now what we're going to do is just set aside our lining for now. Let's just do this now. So our exterior, I'm going to actually change my camera angle to back, panning downward. We are going to flip this so it's right side out. So you're going to want to be careful there with your pins. Don't stab yourself, but push it right side out. Now, technically, you could have turned this prior to pressing and all that, but doing it now is just fine as well. So we're going to flip it. And now, so your little corners here are going to be pushed in. Your little corners here are going to be like smushed in. You just want to use your finger, a chopstick. If you've got that purple thing, use something to just poke that corner back out. Do the same for the other end. And the corners here are why it's very important to trim, do that diagonal trim. And because you really don't want the excess in those corners, otherwise they just won't poke out very nicely. And now at this point, I'm gonna go back and iron the exterior just to make it all nice. And I am back with a freshly pressed exterior. And again, I'm going to just set this aside, and we're not going to need that for the next little bit. What we're going to do next is deal with our straps. And so you're going to want to turn these so it's right side down on your table. You're going to want to fold up about 1/2 inch. And I mean, like, you can go ahead and press this with an iron if you want, but I really don't think you have to. This, again, isn't some sort of precision, you know, we aren't doing rocket science here. We're making a tote bag. So just do this, just press it. Now, because we're using canvas, this is going to stick better. But, so if you were using a quilting cotton, maybe at this point you would want to go ahead and press it, but just do that. And you didn't even see a thing that I did. Okay. So basically I just laid it down lengthwise on the table and folded up the bottom edge 1/2 inch. And then we're going to do the same to the top edge here. So we're just going to fold it, use our fingers, finagle things around, and just crease it. Crease it so it's about 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. Keep creasing it, and you're good. So that edge might be a little off. Don't worry about it. Okay, so what we're going to do next is take these and fold it upon itself like this. So what you've got is you're going to be sandwiching those edges we just folded, and it's going to make our nice pretty strap. Now I am going to go ahead and pin this just so it doesn't dance around on me in the sewing machine, because at this point we're going to be feeding 4 layers of canvas through, and not all sewing machines like eating that much fabric. So if your sewing machine starts to, you know, buck on you a little bit and reject it, that's okay. This will just make sure your piece doesn't get too jostled in the process. I guess I should have said this, I did not change to any sort of special sewing machine needle or anything like that. I don't believe for this bag you need a heavy duty needle in your machine, but also if, you know, if you want to, by all means, please, at this point, maybe is when you might want to think about switching needles, because we are going to start feeding multiple layers of fabric through at the end here. So I'm going to pin this, and then basically we're going to do the same thing with the other piece of fabric, and you're going to have what essentially will be becoming your straps. So let's do it again. And next step, we are going to take this, we're going to take our time holding it over here like you can see. We're going to take this and feed it through the sewing machine. Basically, where you want to do a top stitch on the edge here and a top stitch on the edge here. Basically, as long as you're, oops, I've snagged my pin on my fleece. As long as you make sure your stitch is within your 1/2 inch where you have folded over here, you're fine. Top stitch is generally like, what, top stitch, edge stitch, whatever you want to call it, like 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. So they want you to stay pretty close to the edge. But sometimes it makes me nervous being that close to the edge, you know? So you just kind of see where you feel comfortable and do that. And we're going to begin. For this one, it doesn't matter if you do the reverse thing at the beginning, because we're going to sandwich this in between the layers of the tote bag, so it's all going to be concealed. I don't think there's any stress on that seam area, so I don't find it necessary for this one. Now, this isn't really for any structural reason, but I'm going to flip it over and top stitch, edge stitch down the other end. It's kind of more decorative, but I guess it does cause the strap to stay flatter and it might not tube up on you. Okay, and we have one strap. Repeat for the second one. So there you might have seen me lifting the sewing foot every once in a while and kind of pausing the sewing. Sometimes as you're feeding it through, you can just feel that your feeds, right here, these are fabric feeds. It helps your sewing machine, can you see them down there? It helps your sewing machine pull the fabric through. And sometimes you can just feel that it's not eating the fabric right. The fabric is bunching or not moving properly. So I find that when I start feeling that happen, if I stop, lift the foot, smooth it out, put the foot back down, continue on, things just smooth on out. So that's just what I was doing there. Okay, other seam. Okay, so at this point we have our two straps. You can't see, two straps. And we're going to get our front back out. And what we're going to want to do is, there's going to be a little bit of measurement here. And you are going to want to remove your pins if you've left them in. Okay. So you're going to want to take this we're going to want 4 pins at this point. And 4. Okay, so we're going to pin where we want our straps to be. So we've got the straps and our outer fabric. So I want mine to be 1, 2, let's go 3 inches from the outside edge. We're going to go and roughly 3 inches from the outside edge. Can you see what I did there? I unfolded that little flap that we folded under. And I'm going to pin my handle to it. And now we're going to smooth this out. Hold it to make sure it isn't twisted. And can you see? Oh, it's the same fabric. Okay, so you want to make sure it's flat like this. And then just take the U and pin it to the other side, again 3 inches from the edge. But you want to make sure this handle isn't twisted, because that's a little awkward. So again, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, So about right here is going to be where I want my other one to be. I'm going to pin that there. And we're going to do that to the other strap as well. So we're going to flip it over and get my strap. I'm going to go right about here is going to be, nope, right about here. Nope, that's 2 inches. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be about 3 inches there. Pin it. And then here, 1, 3, right about here. Make sure we're not twisted. Line that up. And you can kind of check to make sure they match up on both sides pretty evenly. Okay, I need the sewing machine back. And I will, where was I? Probably right about there. Okay, no, I was not there. Probably right about there for you. Okay, so basically at this point now, we are going to sew over each of these straps. Again, kind of close to the edge, like your edge stitching. We're just sealing them in. So for this part, this is where this feature of the sewing machine is handy. This is for like doing sleeves. You can take this little part off, and also that's storage for all your knickknacks. Take that off, put it somewhere where it's not going to fall, and you're going to want to kind of stick that around that arm. You're going to feed it under the presser foot. I'm going to go a little further this time. And so this is going to be a bit of a stress point on the bag. It's the handle. So I am going to go ahead and sew it, and then back sew, and then sew again. Now keep going, a couple more stitches, and back, and go forward again. There you go. And you're going to do that on all 4 of the, ouch, stab myself with the pin. All 4 of the points where the handle is attached. It's going to want to swivel and squiggle on you. But you are the master of this sewing project. You can handle it. Oh, where's my other thread? Are you hiding under? Where have you gone, thread? There you are. You can't escape me, top thread. As I said, I'm the master of this sewing project. Okay. Press your foot down, grab your threads, and begin. Okay, so at this point, you're going to want to make sure you fold this kind of back to the inside where it was pressed before. And this is fiddly. It's all so fiddly at this point. Okay. Just go back. There we go. Okay, and now at this point, we are going to want to get our interior, our lining. You're going to want to remove your pins from the lining so you don't stab yourself. And we are basically going to slip the lining into the bag. Just slip it right in. So you don't have to turn the lining inside out because it's already going to be the proper direction in your bag. So I find it easiest to just stick my arm in, grab the other one, and just slide. Now what you do want to do here is get out your pins again and pin this. So what I like to do is make sure I line up these seams here, make sure they look all nice, and I'm going to pin there. And this is just to make sure that the liner and the exterior don't shift on you as you are sewing. So again, we're going to make sure our handle is bent back in. And I normally put a pin here at the handles as well because of how you have them folded or and sewn in on that foldy part, they like to flop around. They do not want to cooperate. But what I'm going to do is actually do the other seam end before I do all of the handles. So find where you seamed the front and back, find where you seamed the outer fabric front and back and the lining fabric front and back. Kind of line that point up and pin it. Then I'm going to come back to this handle. I'm going to make sure it's folded all in nicely. Make sure that's where I want it roughly. And then I'm going to pin it. And then I probably go a little too pin happy at this point, but I really like to make sure that this lines up nicely and looks sharp. So I'm going to do this to the other side. We've already pinned the edges, so we really just need to worry about the handles. Okay, I'm going to work on the other handle here. You kind of want to make sure the handle isn't like tilty or anything either. Make sure these are pretty perpendicular right there. Pin all that. Take a look at your middle. Probably gonna throw a pin right there as well. Okay, now at this point we're going to do 2 more seams on this, and this is our finishing touches, and we're done. We're going to do an edge stitch around the very edge, and then we're going to do another stitch about a ½ inch from quarter inch from the edge stitch. So it's going to create 2 little lines there, and it's going to look nice. So at this point you are still, sorry, my lining fabric's a little bunchy in there. I'm going to flatten it out. Okay, you're still going to want your sewing machine set up like this. You're going to want your thread contained. And we are going to stick this in. I like to start at one of the edges just because, yeah, you got to start somewhere, and we're going to make sure this edge is nice and, you know, securely done. So feed your bag over there. You need to make sure you're not accidentally sewing over. You don't want to accidentally sew your bag closed, and you don't want to accidentally sew a handle to the bag in the wrong spot. So I'm going to get that all fit in there nicely. Okay. Get it to where you want the top stitch. This is going to be a beast of an area to sew through because of all of the seam allowance you have right in this part. So I like to set it back so the sewing machine can start before it hits those seam allowances, so it doesn't have to eat that right away. So I've got it set back. I am going to do the sew a bit, reverse, sew a bit, and then we're just going to do that top stitch all the way around the bag. And I'm hoping you have a decent view of what I'm doing. And you're going to see me probably force the bag through my sewing machine. I promise you, no sewing machines were damaged in the making of this bag. Okay, first seam done. This next one is much easier. You're not close to the edge, and you're not going to go through nearly as much fabric. Where you might struggle is again where we go over the seam area, but basically stick your bag, come on there, thread, there we go. You're going to feed your bag back through. I'm going to line it up with my 5/8 of an inch mark. And nope, I've got it in the wrong spot. Again, I want to start it before the kind of seam allowance becomes involved because it just helps ease it into the sewing machine. there you go. And then trim your thread there, and trim your thread there, and voila, you have a tote bag. Congratulations! Yay, we did it! Push this back. We can kind of get a nice view of our tote bag. We've got our handles, we've got our bag, and there you go! We did it! Hooray! Thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye. Thank you.